Rock, flight on countdown.
Rock.
Per step 94, please verify range is recording telemetry at this time.
Telemetry recorders are running.
Copy, thank you. And reminder to control room, if you require RF data, be prepared to switch over your pages at liftoff. Reminder to all that any 3-word hold from here on out is an immediate abort regardless of source. And MIFCO, please be prepared to issue option when rocket IIP marker passes min MECO and is within dispersed trajectories, calling out at event.
MIFCO copies.
ACE, start PSD recordings and downrange ground station recordings at this time.
Will do.
Two minutes.
2 minutes and counting, everything on track so far.
Hold, hold, hold.
Pulling it apart.
Okay, so as you may have just heard, a hold was called on the countdown net, so we're going to stand by for another update to see what the issue the teams may be working is. We'll provide that update as soon as we have it, but again, the count has entered a hold.
We do have an update for you. We are still holding to complete final LOX conditioning, and so once that is complete, we will likely get a new T0 time shortly from Mission Control for you.
Yeah, we'll keep the updates coming again as soon as we have them, everyone. Holding at T-minus 31 seconds, expecting a recycle for a new T0 shortly. Also, in the meantime, while we wait for that recycle, we'll go ahead and take some more questions. First off, I'll just start with one off the screen. Know that cruise ship is not violating the range right now. That ship in the background is not within the protected launch corridor. It's beyond where the rocket plane trajectory is, so no worries there. But feel the need to adjust that since it's on screen. But otherwise, we've got some other questions to come in while we wait for this hold to clear. So let's start with this one here. Scribes asks, what kind of material is the vehicle made out of, Amanda?
Yeah, so a lot of our first stage structure is made out of aluminum. We try not to have any exotic materials on the vehicle that are difficult to obtain or hard to machine. That really helps to ensure that the vehicle is scaled for manufacturability.
Gotcha. Another question from Sergeant Scott is, how tall is the rocket and is it heading to orbit today?
So the vehicle is 43 feet in length, so it is able to fit into a standard 45-foot shipping container, which makes it very easy for portability to our various space ports. And our launch attempt today is, the countdown will be resuming soon, and so once that happens, our targeted orbit for this mission is to deliver the TROPICS-1 payloads to the 550-kilometer orbit at, again, that 29.75 orbital inclination relative to the equator.
Gotcha. Yeah, so on the screen here we can actually see that graphic of the planned launch trajectory. It's pretty much due east out of Cape Canaveral within that kind of safety corridor. And then if we go back to that camera that showed the cruise ship, that's looking south, actually towards Port Canaveral. For those of you that live or have been around the Canaveral area may know what I'm talking about. That is south, whereas the rocket will be flying kind of left out of frame from this view to the east. So again, just reiterating that the cruise ship is not anywhere it's not supposed to be and is not a problem for today's flight. The current hold is to complete final liquid oxygen conditioning on the vehicle. So waiting for a new T0 regarding that as well. But in the meantime, more questions. We do have a funny question here. Musical Wolves, a regular in the chat, who says, are the mysterious 4 towers portable for Astra, since the rocket and ground equipment are portable? I don't think the lightning protection towers are some of the things that Astra ships out, right?
Those are not. That is part of the permanent infrastructure at the Space Launch Complex.
Gotcha. Always got to ask about the we do have a quick question here from Dag, who asks, when does the launch window close? Today's launch window extends until 2 p.m. Eastern Time, or 1800 UTC. So we're still pretty early in the launch window, and hoping for a quick recycle and a new T0 here shortly. While we wait for another update on this hold, again, hoping that it'll clear soon, but we're going to go ahead and take a break and wait for another update. We'll provide that as soon as we have it. Okay, so as you can see, we're still holding here. We're waiting for this hold to be resolved, but Amanda, I do believe we have an update regarding the weather for today's attempt.
Yeah, so we have recently heard from the range that we are good for another 20 minutes. After then, the weather will become too difficult for us to be able to likely proceed with today's launch.
So yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that, but it looks like we've got at least another 20 minutes to go. So hopefully, if this recycle can occur a little bit quickly, we should still have another chance to launch today. So again, keeping an eye on that, and we'll provide more updates as we have them, as they continue to work this LOX conditioning issue. In the meantime, I think the audio cut out earlier, so I want to ask this question again. Earlier we had that hold at T-minus 15 minutes. Do you want to talk a little bit about why that was the hold point?
Right, yeah, so the T-minus 15 mark is when we enter our terminal count, and that is a really important milestone. That's when we can start to transfer the control over to the vehicle. It's also where we would likely revert back to in case of a recycle. And another key milestone is at approximately 10 minutes from liftoff, where we perform the go pull for launch and tank pressurization. And then at 6 minutes is when the range provides the authorization to launch.
Gotcha. So while we're waiting for this hold, if you are just joining us, this is the live coverage of the TROPICS-1 mission on Astra's LV0010 vehicle. Amanda, do you want to just give a brief overview for the new people that may just be tuning in about what today's mission is all about?
Right. Yeah, so this mission marks, again, our second mission with NASA, and we are launching, it's the first of 3 launches to deliver the NASA TROPICS satellites to low Earth orbit. And so the objective for today is to deliver the 2 identical CubeSats to an orbit of 550 kilometers at a 29.75 degree inclination. These payloads are about 3U in size, so they are fairly small, and the payloads are used to monitor the weather of incoming storms. And so the imagery will actually penetrate into a storm cloud layer and be able to provide precipitation, temperature, and humidity data measurements for scientists and meteorologists to help understand how storms form, grow, and intensify throughout their life cycle. And then we do have a great blog that NASA has provided for us. You can find that with a more overview of the satellites themselves. You can find that at astra.com/mission/tropics-1.
All right. And while we wait again for more mission updates, we have a couple more questions coming into the chat here, so we'll go ahead. We got one asking about the spaceports that Astra operates out of. Of course, this is Cape Canaveral, not the first time Astra has launched from here. Astra has also launched from Kodiak in the past. Can you talk a little bit about the differences in those spaceports and where else Astra might begin launching from?
Yeah, so the 2 main spaceports that we launch out of right now are Kodiak, Alaska, and Cape Canaveral. So Kodiak is beneficial because it is a commercial launch site for both orbital and suborbital vehicles. And then we did actually recently announce a partnership in May with Saxavord in UK Spaceport. You can learn more about that partnership at astra.com and also our video recording from our Space Tech Day. So we're very excited about this partnership as it would expand our capacity to reach key inclinations.
Gotcha. And speaking of other locations regarding Astra, where was this rocket built?
This rocket was built right here at our headquarter factory in Alameda, California.
And shipped via road all the way to Florida, right?
Yep, this one rolled via truck.
I believe we actually have a video of that arrival, if we can show that. This is the video of the rocket being shipped out to Florida for today's launch. So again, that's how the rocket got here, and of course there was a static fire test prior to the launch attempt, and today's launch attempt is currently in a hold. We're waiting for another update on this LOX conditioning issue. Once that hold clears, there'll be a recycle point and a new T0. So once we get a little bit more information and an update on that, we'll go ahead and come back, but let's go ahead and take a break, and we will come back to you with more information as soon as we have it. Again, stick with us. Alright, so we are still in a hold here at T-minus 31 seconds, expecting a recycle and a new T0, hopefully before too long. The window does last all the way till 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC, and we're keeping an eye on the weather with regards to that as well, but still holding for an update, hoping for another recycle still. But in the meantime, we do have some more questions coming in. So first off, Amanda, how much thrust does Rocket 3 have, and what's the thrust-weight ratio with that?
Yes, so the overall thrust of the first stage vehicle is 32,500 pounds. So there are 5 first stage engines on our engine bay, and each one of those deliver about 6,500 pounds of thrust individually, and there's 740 pounds on the upper stage.
Gotcha. And that thrust, again, we talked about earlier about the fuel combination of RPX kerosene and liquid oxygen. Martin is asking, is the rocket propellant, the kerosene component, not cooled? Because you can see only the liquid oxygen tank is frosty there.
Yep, no, the kerosene is not cooled. That is at atmospheric conditions.
Gotcha. Another question here. What is the payload capacity of Rocket 3?
Yeah, so Rocket 3 is able to deliver anywhere from 25 to 150 kilograms of payload up to a 500-kilometer sun synchronous orbit.
Gotcha. And again, the rocket for today's launch still in a hold. We're going to provide another update as soon as we have it, but the teams are hoping to recycle. So keep those questions coming in the meantime. Go ahead and tag us at NASASpaceflight in chat. We're going to keep looking for some more questions while we wait for another update as well, and we'll come back as soon as we have it. Alright, so we are still waiting for an update on today's countdown. Again, we'll provide that update as soon as we have it. In the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at this overview video about the NASA TROPICS mission in partnership with Astra.
A Pew Research poll showed that of 9 different categories that NASA should focus on, number 1 on the list is to observe the Earth's climate. The TROPICS mission is a mission that Americans really care about because it is directly observing our climate.
TROPICS has a very specific need for their orbital configuration. We need to go to a 30-degree inclined orbit, and no one else really wants to go there. The rideshares are all going to sun-synchronous orbits or mid-inclinations, so it's very well targeted to a smaller vehicle with a very targeted insertion where they can get us exactly where we want to go, and Astra is perfect for that.
And so being able to launch 3 different times for $8 million is unprecedented. Because of our unique ability to get to 3 different orbital planes in a very short period of time at a low cost.
Why I'm excited about TROPICS is coming out of NASA, having the opportunity to fly satellites for the organization I used to work for is personally gratifying for me. It's also a really important mission because we can detect tropical storms, we can help people evacuate, we can save lives, and it's a mission that's really well designed for Astra's capability, being able to put multiple rockets up into multiple planes rapidly.
And we have the honor of being the final and most important piece at this moment in time of their mission, which is get that hardware in space, exactly where it needs to go. We see that there are increasingly smaller satellites that are smarter, that are doing cool things in orbit, but they need to go to particular destinations at particular times.
The real end game here is improving our ability to forecast tropical cyclones. What we're trying to do is make measurements in the microwave wavelength region, and those have the advantage of being able to penetrate the cloud tops and see the storm thermodynamics underneath the clouds. We're going to get something we've never had before in the history of weather satellites, which is revisit rates of better than 1 hour.
For the team itself, this will be a massive culmination of the last 3 years of work of developing this launch system to be able to do these things that we set out to do from the very beginning.
From Astra's perspective, it's really important because we believe in space at scale. And to do that, you need to have much more frequent launches and access to space. And so this has been an opportunity for us to really understand how can we further compress the turnaround time between launches, both in terms of building the rockets and in conducting the launches.
What this milestone means for us is delivering a really important mission for our customer, but also demonstrating a capability that others can leverage in the future.
And so the opportunity to be a part of something like TROPICS, where you get to make a difference and make a really large impact in the lives of people and help humanity as a whole, does mean a lot to me. And it really excites me as well, going into this mission, knowing that we can help do something to make the world a better, safer place for people.
Alright everyone, again, we're still waiting for an update on today's countdown. The window does last again till 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time or 1800 UTC, so we'll provide an update as soon as we have it. There is still time left in the window, and the teams are continuing to work to resolve this hold, so stand by for an update as soon as we have it. All right, everyone. Thank you for your patience and sticking with us. We'll keep providing, and we'll provide another update again as soon as we have it. Right now, the teams are just still working to resolve this hold in the window that again lasts for another hour. So plenty of time in the window, but standing by for another update, and we'll provide that and a new T0 as soon as we have it. In the meantime, we do have a couple more questions that we can go through here. So let's see. If today is scrubbed, when is the next likely launch window, Amanda?
Yeah, we do have one more day in our launch window, which is tomorrow, Monday, June 13th.
Right, and we're not pushed to that just yet, but there is a backup opportunity tomorrow. For tomorrow, does the weather look favorable for tomorrow's attempt?
Right now, it does look like the weather is actually more favorable than it is today.
Got it. The weather's still kind of holding out for today, so we're going to keep an eye on that. But another attempt with a favorable weather forecast tomorrow. So again, provide that update as soon as we have it. Other questions here. We do have a question earlier. We were talking about how the teams were working on LOX conditioning. Can you actually elaborate on what that means and what's what they might have been working on with regards to LOX conditioning?
Right, so that's part of our propellant loading procedure. It's filling up the liquid oxygen into the liquid oxygen tank. As the vehicle is sitting on the pad, obviously, since it is a cryogenic fluid, that fluid is boiling off. And so as it sits there, we do need to top off the tank. So we need to continuously refill the liquid oxygen as the vehicle is sitting on the pad prior to launch.
Got it. Another question here from Keynes, who asks, is Astra hiring? I believe that's a great question for you right now, Amanda, right?
Yeah, Astra is hiring. Please check out our website for the over 100 different postings that we're currently recruiting for. And we have an amazing recruiting team, so please reach out to any of them. They'd be more than happy to share with you all of the opportunities that Astra has to offer. I personally spent 11 years in the aerospace industry in test engineering before I took the huge step to join the operations team here at Astra, and it really has been one of the most rewarding experiences. Sending rockets to space is hard, as you can see, and this team works really hard, but they take care of each other. And we aim to give everyone ownership and autonomy over their projects. So come work on something amazing with us. We're looking for mechanical engineers, test engineers, fluids engineers, anyone with experience with valves or automation, or even software systems to help us design our next rocket. And we're also looking to scale up our team in the operations department as well to help us build and qualify each of these vehicles as it leaves the building. So looking for production supervisors, production managers, as well as build technicians. So please check out our website at astra.com/careers.
Awesome. Some other questions we're getting here. We had one question about, have there been any major changes since the last launch from LV0009?
So we are continuously seeking to improve the functionality and reliability of the vehicle. So there have been some minor software updates that have been implemented on LV0010, but there have not been any major material or mechanical upgrades to the vehicle since LV0009. We do have the remainder of our TROPICS vehicles currently in work on the production floor. They're actually directly behind us right now in the final integration lane, and so our team is actually working to transition away from Rocket 3 and towards our Rocket 4. So we did see a question in there about the progress of that. So we are at a transition point right now for our production floor as we're ramping down our Rocket 3 production efforts and building in more of those development builds for Rocket 4.
Nice. See, another question we had was, how long before the launch does fueling take place? Because of course when we go live, you guys just see propellant loading has already been well underway. So how long before launch does Astra start fueling the rocket?
Yeah, so it typically takes about 2 hours to start the fueling process from beginning to when the vehicle is ready to go. And sometimes if we do need to recycle, it can often take up to 30 minutes to recycle the vehicle.
Gotcha. And with regards to that ground support equipment that is, of course, involved with fueling and all these other things, can you talk a little bit about how that ground support equipment gets transported along with the rocket to the launch site?
Yeah, so the amount of ground support equipment that goes with each of the vehicles depends on where we're launching from and what type of infrastructure we already have set up in that area. So if it's Kodiak, Alaska, or the Cape, then we have some of the ground support equipment that is left there from our previous launches. But if we were to set up brand new at a new location, believe we can bring all of our ground support equipment in roughly 5 containers, and that includes our consumables, the helium LOX containers, our fuel. It brings in the cube, and even the cube for the launcher system and the rocket, and then we also have a clean room that we bring along in a shipping container. So roughly around 5 shipping containers is what we need to set up a new space.
5 shipping containers for an orbital launch system. That's pretty cool. Again, everyone, if you just stick with us, we are waiting for another update on today's countdown. Still in a hold right now. The window lasts until 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and we will provide another update again as soon as we have it. The team's still working on resolving that hold, but keep the questions coming. Tag us at NASASpaceflight in chat, and we'll come back with some more updates and some more question and answers once we have them. All right. Go ahead.
We do have an update for you. We are going to finish our configuration loads and checks and then do a terminal count pre-pull, and we'll be checking back in with the range to see if they are go or no-go. It does appear like the weather is favorable until at least 10:45 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah, so that Florida weather doing the Florida weather thing where
Yes.
it might just hold out long enough, so we'll keep an eye out on that. But sounds like we are getting close to a new T0, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we do have a couple more questions to go through, so we'll keep those coming with that update. First question from Hoppy is, what is the expected time for launch tomorrow? I have exams and don't want to miss the launch. I can relate to that. But what is the launch window for tomorrow?
So the launch window for tomorrow would be at the same time as it was today. So that would be starting at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern.
Gotcha. But hoping that we don't need that because it sounds like we might get lucky today. We'll stay tuned for that. Other questions coming in here. Gaming Viper asks, what engines are being used for this rocket? So what are the engines on Rocket 3?
Right, so the Rocket 3 engines, so on the first stage, there are the 5 electric pump-fed engines. Each one has 65,000 pounds of thrust, and so those are fed via the RPX, which is a highly refined form of kerosene as well as liquid oxygen. So there's a total combined thrust of 32,500 pounds on the first stage engine bay. And then there is one engine on the upper stage, and that is a pressure-fed engine that can provide 740 pounds of thrust.
Gotcha. And then you mentioned earlier we were talking about the new mission control setup. That's still here in Alameda, right?
Yes. Yeah. So even though this pod is portable, the intention is for mission control to stay here in Alameda rather than actually transporting these pods to the launch site. Mission control is intended to be at headquarters. However, we do have our smaller team that does head out to the launch site. That is our red team. So the intention is to make sure we have 2 small teams supporting each of the launches. One that does travel to the launch site, but then also the mission control pod staying here and supporting on site at headquarters.
Yeah, I gotcha. So again, the launch site out there in Cape Canaveral, Florida. If you are just joining us, this is live coverage of the LV0010 launch vehicle, which is slated to launch the TROPICS-1 mission, the first of 3 flights for NASA's TROPICS mission from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Right now the teams are in a hole, but they are working on resolving it with some last minute checks and things. Sounds like we should get a new T0 hopefully very soon. The window lasts until 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern, and weather is continuing to cooperate, maybe just long enough for a launch today. But we're going to stay tuned for another update. We'll provide that T0 as soon as we have it, so stay with us.
Okay, Tango, can you confirm for me that an AV1 managed power systems toggle ground power systems authority is still true?
Tango on countdown, AV1 managed power systems authority, ground power systems authority is true.
AV1 managed polling, do both ground and guidance polling is set to true.
Setting both ground and guidance polling to true.
GNC.
Alright, so as you can see now, the countdown clock has resumed to just about T-minus 12 minutes and counting. We're going to come up on another go, no-go poll like we heard earlier. The teams are back into a recycle and aiming for a new T0 of 10:43 a.m. Pacific time. That's 1:43 p.m. Eastern time, local time in Cape Canaveral, or a 17:43 UTC. Again, now just under T-minus 12 minutes, and the teams are tracking towards a new T0 for today's launch. Really quickly, we can do a brief overview of the mission timeline again. If you are just joining us, this is what we would expect to see after the last 10 minutes of this countdown. So, Amanda?
Yeah, so T0 is when we have first stage engine ignition and liftoff. And then just 6 seconds into the flight is when we begin our pitch over, which is when the onboard guidance will start to pitch the vehicle over towards its downrange orbital trajectory. And then just over 1 minute over into flight is when the vehicle will reach max Q. Again, this is when the vehicle's structural integrity will be tested because this is when it is the maximum dynamic pressure on the vehicle during flight. And just at the 3 minute mark is when we will have reached main engine cutoff, or MECO as it will be called out. And this is when the first stage engines will receive the command to shut down, which allows the vehicle to briefly coast before stage separation. From there, we will receive the command to have the fairings pop open and fall away from the vehicle, which will then be followed immediately by stage separation. And so that is when the first stage releases the upper stage into the atmosphere. And then at around 3 minutes 15 seconds, the upper stage engine will ignite and be on its way to orbit. And then after a roughly 5-minute flight, the upper stage will receive the command to shut down its engine, followed by payload deployment. And as we mentioned earlier in the live stream, we are hoping to see live video feed from one of our onboard upper stage cameras of one of the 2 payloads being deployed. However, it is possible that we will not see confirmation of this for up to 90 minutes after the satellite deployment, or at least a couple of orbits, and that is mostly due to the location of the satellites in their orbit relative to their ground communication links once deployment happens. So we will be ending the live stream right as deployment occurs, but again, the satellite communication may not be confirmed for up to 90 minutes. So please remember to follow NASA's Twitter handle at NASA Earth, who will provide confirmation once that satellite signal is confirmed. And then we will also provide an update on our handle at Astra when we have confirmed with our NASA partners.
As the teams get ready to go into the last few minutes of the countdown, let's go ahead and listen in as they go for the final go, no-go poll.
Okay, team, this takes us to step 90, hole 3 for tank press and launch. Customer, can you please confirm if the payload is ready for flight?
Payload ready.
Copy. Going around the room, team. After this point, any system issue is a 3-word hold on the countdown net. If there are no concerns for flight, call go. Otherwise, call no go. Red lead.
Go.
FTS.
Go.
GNC.
Go.
Athena.
Athena's go.
FAO.
FAO's go.
CDH.
CDH is go.
Tango.
Tango is go.
Astra Safety.
Safety is go.
Astra Flight is also go.
Alright, as you just heard, the teams have once again pulled go for launch. T-minus 8 minutes and counting. You can see right now that's the mission control team. Amanda, you want to give us an overview of the personnel that are supporting today's launch?
Yeah, so in the mission control pod, you see they're sitting here at our headquarters in Alameda. So in the bottom left-hand side of the screen there, you see Joshua Green. He is our controller, also the call sign Tango. His responsibilities are executing commands that are being called out for the ground support equipment, as well as the rocket and automation, and also just make sure that all the clicks and actuation are running properly. On the bottom right-hand side of the screen there is Jarrett Bullion. He is our command and data handling, our call sign CDH. And his responsibilities are just debugging some of the automation, monitoring progress, and looking for any anomalies in the launch system. In the back right there is our assistant flight director for today. He is in training. That is Derek Hamilton. He is hidden behind his monitors right now. But then on the far left is Chris Hoffman. He is our flight director for today. He leads the launch operations procedures and is ultimately our final launch authority. In addition to the launch operations team, we do also have an engineering backroom that helps to monitor the rocket, update software, and perform other various tasks during operations. These are generally the engineers that are responsible for the system elements, and they are there to ensure that things are working properly and to assist the launch operation team when troubleshooting if needed. And these folks are scattered across our facility at their own consoles. So huge thank you to this team. Launch operations is a multi-day effort with many checkouts and procedures that need to go perfectly in order to give our team the okay to launch.
I believe also in addition to those here in Alameda, you do want to go over the folks that are out at the launch site for today's mission.
Yeah, so we also have our red team. The red team are the folks on the ground in Cape Canaveral. These are the field engineers that travel with the rocket, and they provide on-site support during the delivery, the setup, and all of the final pre-launch preparations for the vehicle. They're basically responsible for all of the physical work that needs to be done on the vehicle after production has officially handed off the vehicle and launch system to launch operations. So basically find and debug all the mechanical problems. So Adam Fish is our red lead. He is the pad leader that has the final say on things, the pad itself, and leads the activities at the launch site. Then we have our red 2 through 4 members. That's Eric Larson, Corey Beals, and Benjamin Barrow, and they're responsible for just doing a lot of the assembling and troubleshooting of the mechanical and electrical tasks at the launch site. Then we have Melissa Cornelius, who is our Astra safety officer. Their responsibility is ensuring a safe launch, so that requires a lot of coordination between the range, FAA, and internal Astra personnel. And then we have Eric Steinberg, aka Steiny, as our red IT. He is our on-site IT and network professional that basically ensures that our cameras, communication, and data at the launch site is working. And as we mentioned earlier about hiring, there are positions on our career site for launch field technicians if anyone is interested in traveling to our sites and helping us assist with our launches.
All right. So coming up on the T-minus 5-minute mark, we're going to go ahead and listen in to the mission controllers as they work through the final few minutes of the countdown. Again, if you're just joining us, we are 5 minutes away from the next launch attempt for Tropics Flight 1 on Astra LV0010. Let's listen in.
Minutes.
T-minus 4 minutes and count.
MIFCO flight on countdown, please be prepared to issue option when rocket IIP marker passes min-MECO marker and is within dispersed trajectories, calling out at event.
MIFCO copies.
Reminder all that any 3-word hold call from here on out will be on abort. ACE, please start PSD recordings and downrange ground station recordings.
Done.
Minutes.
T-minus 2 minutes, all systems go so far.
Seconds. Seconds. Vehicle is on internal control.
Less than a minute to go. Everything looks on track.
First stage LOX tank coming to liftoff pressure. First stage fuel tank coming to liftoff pressure. "30 seconds. "20. 15. 10. Water on. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Chamber pressure is nominal.
Our next objective is max Q, which is the period of maximum dynamic pressure on the first stage structure during flight, which is coming up just after 1 minute.
There's a tracking shot of the rocket ascending from Cape Canaveral on its way to space. And keep track of the mission with the timeline on the bottom, as well as live telemetry on the bottom right of your screen.
Milestone is going to be the main engine cutoff, which will be called out by launch ops as MECO. Once that option is confirmed, the command will be set to shut down the 5 first stage engines and allow the vehicle to briefly coast. We will then signal to pop open the fairings and allow those to fall away from the vehicle. The first stage will then release upper stage for the final segment of our flight.
Two and a half minutes in the flight, again coming up on main engine cutoff at just about T+3 minutes. Everything looking good so far.
Flight, MIFCO, option sent.
Confirmed, option received.
Now looking at an onboard view, looking up, there you see payload fairing separation. This is a camera on the upper stage. And there's stage separation and ether ignition, upper stage ignition. Now the upper stage will burn for just about 5 minutes on its way to low Earth orbit. Again, everything looking good so far. Can actually see from the onboard telemetry the vehicle is actually already in space. However, it has to get that
horizontal velocity needed to stay in space via achieving low Earth orbit. And so we're going to be watching that velocity marker tick up on the bottom right of your screen.
But 4 minutes into flight, everything is looking good so far. You can see on the left there the path that the rocket has traced so far on its trajectory, pretty much due east right down the center of that corridor. 5 minutes into flight, everything looking good. And we're going to expect this burn to continue until about 8.5 minutes after liftoff.
Yeah, the 8.5-minute mark, that's when we will receive the second engine cut off, and at that point will be payload deployment. And just as a reminder, we should only be able to see one of the 2 payloads deploy from this mission from our onboard upper stage camera. However, it is likely that we may not see this video feed and we may not receive signal confirmation of the satellites for up to 90 minutes after deployment occurs. Again, this is completely expected, and it is due to the location of those satellites in orbit relative to their ground communication links.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see exactly what we see there, but hoping to get some cool views. The teams at Alameda watching on as the flight progresses. Again, the flight going well so far, 6 minutes into flight. You keep an eye on that altitude. You can see the rocket already over 510 kilometers in altitude. Again, the target orbit for today is at 550 kilometers in altitude. And you can see also that velocity continuing to climb towards orbital velocity, of course, which is good. 7 minutes into flight. Just a little over a minute left in the planned upper stage burn.
Michael, they would like to cut back to the
We had a nominal first stage flight. However, the upper stage engine did shut down early and we did not deliver our payloads to orbit. We will end the broadcast here and thank you for sticking with us today.
Thank you to Astra for partnering with NASA Spaceflight to help bring live launch coverage to you, and stay tuned for more news coverage. But that wraps up our coverage for today. Thank you all for watching.